because right now, oh, we're live.
Go ahead.
But I was just like, if I had known that, I would have given myself more time so that the next book that I release, it's just like it's easier because right now I have like a week and a half to do these edits.
Right. Yeah, and I think that that's just a crucial thing to make sure that we that gets factored in. Making sure you have enough time. So
Mhm.
that's the first tip for people who are tuning in. Hello, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to my channel. It's your girl, Amanda the author, and I'm joined by one of my favorite people, my good sis, Chelsea, aka CM Lockhart. How you doing? How's it going?
I am good. I'm tired. I am overwhelmed with life, but I am here and I am present. I feel like that's how I felt in school all the time. I don't want to be here. Life is overwhelming, but I'm here. That's the mood right now.
Oh, that is the feeling, that is the move, that is the vibe. I think that's everybody. It could be this Mercury retrograde fucking people up. I don't know what it is, but certainly it's been getting to me as well.
Yeah,
Uh,
because I have been, how do I put it? I don't. It's overwhelmed by like little things, and I just don't know. It's just this feeling of being like, oh, I should be able to do more. Like I've been doing more, but right now I am at capacity. Like I literally cannot take on another task. And I'm just kind of like, I don't know. I don't know what happened to me. I don't know if my brain shrunk between now and like a couple of months ago, but I'm just like, I cannot handle it. It is not on the radar, cannot be on the radar. I will get back to you, but don't wait on it. Don't hold your breath on it, you know? And it's
right.
been a little disappointing, but also I'm dealing with it. I'm working through it in like little batches, if that makes sense.
It does. Because I'm in the same boat with these rewrites are taking a toll, and every single week it seems like something new pops into my brain. We already talked about me combining characters, so that's the where I'm at. And just so much on my plate that I'm easily irritated. And then earlier today at work at my day job, that computer wasn't working, so then I had
Mm.
to put in a ticket and just sit and wait for IT to get back to me. And by the time they did, it was working, and I was just ruminating.
It's always
Plus,
like
I
that.
want a muffin, and I don't feel like leaving my house. So it's like, how am I going to make that happen?
I mean, you could DoorDash it, but that's really expensive. And also, Cool Gamer's here. Hello, Cool Gamer. How are you doing? Thank you for coming to hang out with us.
Thank you for tuning in, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. So yeah, that's just I guess a bit about how we're doing. Let us know in the comments how y'all are doing.
Yeah.
We're both overwhelmed, overtired, bewitched, bothered, bewildered, whatever we want to say. But we're here, and it's Friday, and we're gonna have a fun time
Yes.
talking about a couple tips. Firstly, leading with how do we write romance in sci-fi and fantasy?
That
What's the key?
the key. First tip, actually have loved someone at some point in your life.
Hmm.
Tip number one, so you're writing from experience. And then tip number two, um, be very overt. That's what I'm learning right now. That is my current lesson. Because as I told you, like I'm going through rewrites of my own book as well. And I know when we started the stream, y'all listening probably got the tail end of that conversation. But I was just telling Amanda that, I have rewrites and I'm going through it and I need for my next book, I need to give myself more time. And the reason for that is when I was talking to my editor literally yesterday, I was talking to him about the romance in my book. And one of the things, Amanda, you've read it, between Jack and Brandy, they're very stable. So their love isn't the overt kind that most people are used to in fantasy. And we were just going back and forth about it, like how to like, because some people pick up on it, like Amanda, you picked up on it. And then there's some people who don't pick up on it. And I'm just kind of like, do I need to make this more obvious? And then one of the suggestion was to have one of the other characters notice the small things or whatever that are like transpiring between them. And I guess this is where I kind of want your take on this, Amanda. It's just kind of like, is it really still is it the same vibe if someone else is noticing it outside of the two people who are in it?
I mean, I guess, but that also kind of feels like maybe telling the reader a little bit, like a side character telling the reader, "Oh, hey, look, are you picking up on this love story? Because they're in love if you didn't know." And to me, I picked up their love, their affinity, their affection for each other right away.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's because we're not used to in fiction seeing love as it is. We're used to seeing it at the start. We're
Mm-hmm.
used to seeing those huge, like super passionate moments of pining, overt, can't live without this person. I have to do what I have to do to get them in my life or whatever
Mm-hmm.
across all types of fiction. And we're not used to seeing a stable relationship unless that relationship is about to get fucked up by a murder or a horror story
Mm-hmm.
or somebody cheated or something like that.
Yeah.
So I think we're just not used to seeing it, and so people don't really know what to do with themselves.
I don't know. I'm ruminating on it. That's my word for the week, ruminating on it, because I'm just kind of like, I definitely want to I want it to be clear, but also their love story isn't plot A, plot B, plot C. It's really not even a plot point because there's nothing happening with it. It's not the drama, it's not the conflict. So I guess that would also be another tip for writing romance. Decide if you want the romance to be how major part of the plot you want it to be. If it's going to be like a guiding factor, like, oh, if they break up, that's going to shift what the character does in the plot. Or if it's gonna be like me, and it's just kind of like it's there, but it's not what the story is about. It's just kind of like an undercurrent. So, also another tip, figure out where you want it to be in the story.
Right, I agree. I think that's good to nail down when you are. I don't want to say outlining because I know there's probably a lot of pantsers out there. When you are thinking about the story first and maybe thinking about the main beats and main points, I feel like
Mhm.
if you want to include love in the story, that should be one of the main points because that is kind of its separate arc in itself. You have your character arc and then the love story separate from that arc. I think. And so then it's important to chart that trajectory of okay, they meet each other. What is their reaction when they meet each other? What is their reaction to each other the next time they see each other? Or like if in your case they're already stable, what would a stable relationship look like between two people, between two black people, between two black assassins, between two confident, sexy black assassins?
And I think, and also if you guys are listening to this and y'all have like
That's
specific
promo for your book,
questions,
by the way.
huh?
That's
Yes, it was
promo for your book, by the way.
truly, because and part of me wonders how much of this discussion would be had if my characters were not black, if it would have to be overt, like they're
Mm.
together and they're gentle with each other. And for me, it's just kind of like when I wrote these characters, they're not nice. They are intentionally not nice. Hey, Reed Love, listen, how you doing? Um, but it's also like they are gentle with each other. They are literally the only people in the book that they are nice to. And it's intentional because of who they are. But like I said, some people pick up on it and some people really like it, and then some people are like, I feel like we were just told they were in love and we didn't see it. And I'm just kind of like, it's not going to look the same. And I don't know how to make that clear because I don't want to make them try super hard, because it's just like when you're in a long-term relationship that's stable, you're not trying super hard all the time. Like that, not to say that there's no effort, but it's not going to look the same as it's not that obsessive. Oh my God, you're on my brain all the time. What are you doing? Where are you going? Can I go with you? Like, talk to me. What's happening? Like, yes, talk to me what's happening, but it's also that assumption that you're going to talk to me. We're going to spend time together. Like, it's not that obsessive compulsion that you have at the very beginning when you're just like infatuated with someone, you know?
Yeah, I I think it's those little moments. One of the things I especially liked about your book is the beginning part where um, Jack first brings Brandy to Sarah,
Mhm,
and when you say even in her sleep she reaches for him, to
mhm,
me that felt very much like something that happens in a stable relationship, because maybe he's sitting there letting her be healed, but she's reaching for him anyway, like instinctively she
mhm.
knows that he's there. And I think that that only happens when you have some time into a relationship that is stable and you know that that person's going to be there for you. So I appreciated those little things, but I think you're right. It's uh I think maybe people are used to having being told.
Yeah. And right, when
Hmm.
it's a longer relationship, there's established routines. And I think, and this is no shade towards anyone. So if it comes off that way, I apologize in advance. But it's one of those things where I have noticed distinctively that the people who did pick up on it are in longer relationships or have been in a longer relationship. Whereas the people who are, and I say overtly because it's not like I know every beta reader like personally, like, hey girl, what you doing? Like, how's, no, I don't know everyone like that, but I know for a fact the people who did pick up on it and appreciate it have either are in a long-term relationship or have been in a long-term relationship. Whereas some of the other people were just like, I didn't see it. Wasn't
Mm.
there. And I'm just kind of like, I don't know if that's something that I can change because, like you said, it to me, I'm just kind of like the small things aren't there for other people to notice. Like it wouldn't feel right for me, like that moment that you were describing where she's reaching for Jack. It wouldn't be right for me to like try to write Sarah noticing that because she doesn't know. She wouldn't be like, oh, she's reaching for him, so that's so cute. Like no, she would literally just see her hand moving and be like, huh, okay, maybe she's just moving in her sleep. Whereas Jack sees it as, oh, she's looking for me, I'm right here type thing.
Right. Yeah, and I think obviously the things that Sarah are going to notice are those personality changes. She's going to know how Brandy is with her. She's going to see how Brandy is with Noble, and then she's going to see how vastly different Brandy is with Jack. And so then, of course, she's going to make that mental leap of, okay, obviously there's something special here because she's not nice to nobody else. She's not laughing to anybody else's jokes. She's not that her energy is different with Jack. And so of course Sarah's going to pick up on that. And then by extension we do too. So I personally think you did a great job with it, but I can see how you know adding a little bit more cues here and there for the people who haven't been in longer term relationships, especially if your audience is early 20s,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it where it makes sense. That's the key.
Yeah. As I'm going through the rewrites, I'm trying to figure out like ways that I can work it in to like have it be present, but I still like my instinct is just like it can't be overt. It's not. And then I guess in my mind, I'm like, also we have declarations of love. Like we do have that, but it's also the little things like them, like you said, them laughing, them like the little touches when it's unnecessary. The okay, we're good, y'all can leave. We're gonna be by ourselves for a bit, you know. But as I said, I will sit with it. I'm ruminating on it. I will work it in for the lovelies out there who are still looking for their one true love or five true loves, whatever makes you happy, you know. So, but I'm rambling about myself, and I apologize.
No, you're
What are
good.
your tips, Amanda, for writing romance? Because you are writing a wonderful, amazing queer romance in your upcoming book. So, how is that?
Right. So I think probably one big tip is to note the chemistry, right? You need
Mhm,
to, I think when it comes to writing relationships, you have to feel it as a writer. And if you're not feeling giddy about this relationship, nobody else is going to. And it could be any relationship. I don't just mean giddy in terms of love. I mean like platonic love. I mean familial love.
mhm,
In my series, the relationships I felt the most giddy about was the relationship between Mercury and Sloan, and that is his ride or die best friend. They will never be together, but their relationship is so special, and readers pick up on it. I know, like you liked that
mhm,
relationship, you liked Sloan, most people do, but I think people pick up on just how pure their relationship is. And the relationship that Mercury has with his father is so wonderful and pure. And I really, really enjoyed writing that because I wanted to show Black fatherhood. I wanted to show black two Black men loving each other enough to give each other hugs and to cry in front of each other and to go to brunch and to talk about things that we don't necessarily see them get to talk about. And then in this book, I wanted to write queer romance because I wanted to highlight it. And I wanted to write, what do you do when you have two women who are maybe set in their ways? Maybe they're like vulnerable. I'm new to this world. I don't know what exactly is happening. Zora, especially new to this witchy world, and she's kind of self taught. And she's never, or in her case, she's never been with a woman before, but she's always known she's bisexual. I feel like we have a lot of those moments where it's like a character who perceives himself as straight initially and then meets a woman, and then the sparks fly, and then they have this whole arc of questioning their identity. And of course, that can happen, but I think I wanted to show that she knows that she is attracted to women and men and non-binary people and trans and whatever, but she's never had that opportunity to be with a woman because she's kind of closed herself off because of these powers. And everybody thinking, well, necromancy is evil. You know, the witches are like, well, necromancy is evil, and the humans are like, magic don't exist. So she's like, well, damn.
Where do I fit into this?
You know, so then meeting somebody who doesn't think that at all, who thinks it's cool, who's like, oh yeah, I've got an aunt who's a necromancer, and the story she has told me really kind of makes her feel appreciated and fully seen. And I think that that's good when you write a love story where you have somebody who really fully sees that other person, because I think that's what we all want. So I guess after rambling, my first tip is to, if you don't feel giddy about the love, nobody else will.
I second that. Like you have to. I would say I would add to that to have a clear understanding of the relationship. So even if it's not romantic, like you said, even if it's platonic, even if it's familial, having a clear understanding of how these two characters are supposed to interact with each other.
Right.
Because even if you're not a plotter, because like Amanda plots, y'all. She has amazing outlines. And I'm just over here
Oof.
like, bruh, I have like 4 bullet points on a Word document.
Bullet points and vibes for you. Now,
Yes.
I plot sometimes I think too much, but I do think it's the anxiety in me, or the Gemini. Who the fuck knows? Okay, but
I don't know.
going the point.
I am one of those people where I'm like, if I know what's going to happen, I can't. I lose interest. It's so I'm just kind of like I need checkpoints. So like it's like if I'm driving from like North Carolina to California, like I have checkpoints like what city I'm going to stop at, but I have no idea how I'm going to get to that city. It's just vibes. Okay, we're going on this road trip, and we'll get there when we get there. But um but the point. Ugh, I got so sidetracked talking about outlining. I'm so sorry. Point is, even if you're not an outliner, you should still have a very clear idea of your characters, I would say, and a clear idea of the objective that the the relationship partner for your main
Right.
character plays in their story. So don't just give them a love interest just to be like, okay, well, I have to give them a love interest. You really don't. But if they are going to be there, make sure they're adding something to their life or presenting an obstacle to their life or giving them a reason to grow or even giving them a reason to like pick up bad habits, whatever it is, like that
Mm-hmm.
character needs to play a role. They don't need to just exist. Same thing with friends, same things with family. And I think for me, and this could be a whole other conversation because honestly, I have been having opinions kind of lately about some of the feedback from my story, specifically about the part of I try to make it very clear that I did not write my characters to be nice. They are not nice people. They are not friendly. They are not open. And sometimes, as a Black woman, I feel like writing a Black character a lot of people are looking for that, for the niceness, the softness, the I fit into the spaceness, and my characters are not that. But the reason I bring that up is because even in the relationships that I have within my book, it's just like, even though they're not nice, they do have relationships with other people and how they interact with them. And that adds to the story and how they go about things, and even how the reader gets information, you
Right.
know? So I would, repeating myself, rambling. It's a bad habit. I'm sorry. But think about that when you're writing the story, even if you're not plotting out every, like, oh, they're going to have a discussion about this, they're going to have an argument about that, so on and so forth. Just know that if this person needs to push this person to be nicer, to be more open, to be friendlier, to be whatever it is, you know how and why they're supposed to do that.
Oh, hold on. I'm
Hello,
trying to do
ma'am.
this
How
thing.
are you?
Sending you love. There we go, Kyla. I like that not every villain needs a redemptive arc. They can be bad just because. Yes. I would say a future session, a future chat session, I definitely want to talk about villains because I love your villains, Chelsea, and we will give more tips on writing villains. But I do think that that is one of the aspects of having a villain. Like, of course, they can't just be, oh, it's a villain, they're bad. They need to have a bit of a reason,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not a situation where they need to have a redemptive arc or they absolutely have to die at the end. I think if it makes sense for their story to not die,
Yeah.
then
I, I'm one of those people where I think differently. I say that because I'm not sure how many other people would agree with me, but I feel like there was a point in life where we got Zuko and his redemption arc, and it was the best redemption arc any of us had ever seen. And so now we're all like, villains need redemption, and it's just kind of like, no, they really don't. Some people, the goal of a villain is not to reform them. The goal of the villain is to grow your antagonist, or to grow your protagonist, by showing them essentially a mirror of themselves, or to
right,
show them an option, or to present an obstacle to them that they have to overcome. It's like, some villains can be reformed, but also, if you have written a villain and they are, and I will say this, if you have written a villain well, and they are the type of villain who completely believes in what they are doing, just like your protagonist completely believes in what they are doing, giving them a redemption arc where they completely change all of their deep-seated beliefs in order so that you don't have to kill them, so that you can make them the good guy, or you can make them friends, and their entire personality changes. I don't think that's a redemption arc, more so
right,
as you kind of just writing this character into a different kind of space altogether, if that makes sense.
right. And the last note, kind of on villains, I'll say is that you have to remember that your villain, they are the protagonist in their own story, and
Mm-hmm.
your main character is their villain. So one exercise you could do is to, swap and maybe write, even if you don't include it in your books, write a chapter or something from the villain's perspective
Mm-hmm.
to show kind of that. Because, as Reload listens, as some villains have justified reasons, even though what they do is villainous, like Killmonger and Poison Ivy. I
Mm-hmm.
agree. We could spend all day talking about villains because we love them. But so stay tuned, come back to this channel. We will be having a whole session about villains because,
That's her
hmm,
nice way of saying to go ahead and
epic.
subscribe, you guys.
Yes, yes. I feel like the trend right now is to make the love interest a bad boy, like the love interest is someone who would have been a villain. I agree. I've seen that. That was one of the things that happened on the Charmed reboot, and whether you feel a way about it, is they ended up making Abby, who's a white woman, and I just did not need to be included. But they kind of tried to make her the love interest from one person, and then it didn't work out, and then they went and did a whole lot of queer baiting between Mel, who is a lesbian, and Abby, who was very flirtatiously disaster by energy. And we never got that payoff. And then she ends up becoming Abby ends up becoming wholly good by the end of the thing, and then she leaves the show because Mel made her into a better person. And it just is like, I don't want her to be a better person. I liked her being like, sometimes you got to do evil shit to make the world go round. And I liked that. And she pushed Mel further into, you have to do what you have to do sometimes for the greater purpose, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, back to talking about love. I would say my other tip about writing love is read romance, or read not necessarily a full on romance book, but read other books and get inspired by other books that have good romance, specifically the kind of romance that you want to write. Because I could not write a romance between two women and read only heterosexual romance.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to be the same. It's going to hit different. Same thing, don't just read, if you're writing black love, you can't read a book with a white couple. It
Yeah.
don't work, you know. And again, if you are somebody who really, you don't want to go and get a full-on book that is only romance and doesn't have any other kind of genre to it, there are plenty of other good sci-fi fantasy books, horror books, all of that that do have romance in it.
I feel like honestly, there are so many books that you could pick up, and most of them are going to have a romance subplot somewhere in the book or the series,
Hmm.
because that's just kind of the nature of people who be peopling. People like other people, generally speaking, unless and it doesn't always have to be a sexual relationship, because one of the things that I always kind of think about, especially for my book, is I think about the relationship between Jane and Kate from Dread Nation and Deathless Divide,
Mm-hmm.
because um, Jane and Kate do not really get along in the first book. They're just kind of together by proximity, and their relationship kind of grows from there. And even as you follow them throughout their journey, they never become the type of friendship that you're used to seeing, where it's just like, oh, that's my best friend. We ride or die. We're always together. I didn't know what. They're very much two independent people who have their own thoughts, feelings, and even viewpoints on how to deal with things. And they clash regularly. And one of my favorite moments, and this is a slight spoiler, I guess, if you've never read Deathless Divide, but they actually come to like a fist fight at one point in the second book, where it's just like, you know what? And where Kate's just like, you know what? You got problems. I got problems with you. Put your weapons down. We about to have it out right now. And
Hmm.
that kind of energy you don't really see with women, especially girls who are described as being trained as proper ladies, and who are, I'll just say, who are pretty. They're not super buff, burly, supposed to be mannish type characters. They're ladies, and they're still out there in the middle of like a zombie apocalypse fighting each other. And I just really like that balance. And that's kind of the energy, not necessarily the exact dynamic that I wanted
Yeah.
between my characters, but the energy that I kind of wanted to pull from. And having read it made it a lot easier to be like, okay, I'm trying to go for this type of energy, versus if I hadn't read it, I would still be trying to find a good example of how do I want Brandy and Sarah to interact with each other, you know?
Right. This is a great comment. I feel like it's hard to find the balance in some stories between the romance and action. I agree. Um, and I think one thing, obviously, a benefit of having beta readers can help you determine that. But
Mm-hmm.
it's like we said up top, is having a clear understanding of what purpose the romance is going to serve in the book, what
Mm-hmm.
purpose these characters will serve, what purpose, all of, what's the point of what it is that you are doing. Having romance for romance sake is,
One thing.
but it's better to have a romance where the characters complement each other and maybe get something out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, to bring in, my own, what's happening with my own book. So my main character Zora, as I've mentioned, she's a necromancer. She's very confident in herself. She's a plus size black woman who's bisexual. Well, I'll say more pansexual. So
Mm-hmm.
she's a plus size black woman, pansexual. She knows that about herself. She loves herself. She has no issues with any of that. Her only thing is being a necromancer and having the fear around that and struggle with finding witches to authentically connect with, because the second that they hear she's a necromancer, they're just like, you know, you're
Mm.
gross, black magic, black magic. We're not gonna fuck with you. And so she's very closed off for a variety of reasons, but that's one of the reasons why she kind of struggles with relating to other people, because it's like, well, the second I tell you what kind of magic I have, you're just going to peace out. So why should I even try to start a relationship?
Mm-hmm.
But the woman that I am having her fall in love with now, I posted about this on TikTok. Her initial first love interest was going to be a very soft, cinnamon rolly type woman who is just very vibey. Hi, Zora, you're so great. And she's a hairstylist, and she was going to be kind of a breath of fresh air in Zora's life, and not, no pressure, just acceptance. But
Mm-hmm.
as I was writing their interactions and writing her, I realized that that's not what my main character needs. Yes, she needs somebody who's going to see her for who she is and who's going to accept her, but she also needs somebody who's going to pull her card and isn't afraid to say, look, you're tripping. You need to leave me alone. I need my space. You don't know what you're doing. I know more than you. And not in like a controlling way, but very honest
Mm-hmm.
and very like, she needs somebody who's going to be very tough love of like, get your shit together. You're a bad bitch. Get your shit together. And the original love interest, that's not the way that I was writing her. So any moment of her speaking to Zora in that way would have felt inauthentic.
Yeah.
And then I was writing this other character whose name is Whitley. And again, this is kind of a gift to Chelsea here, because she and I were talking about names, and I went, "What about Whitley?" And she was like, you have to let me
I'm
have
sorry,
this."
y'all. She is writing about a bad bitch in Savannah, Georgia, who runs shit, and she's glamorous on top of that, and she takes no shit from anyone. If she did not name her Whitley, I was like, what else are you going to name her? What are you going to call her? Sierra? That's not going to
Right.
work.
No,
Like,
Whitley. And so, Whitley she's steeped in magic. She comes from a very magical family. Every single person in her family has magic and talks about it freely. There is no, oh, this type of magic is bad, this type of magic is good, because it just runs through their veins. She's seen a lot, so she doesn't approach magic with such a, oh my god, what is this, as Zora does. It's just,
mm-hmm.
okay, let me do this ritual, and then I got to do a press and curl in the morning, because she's a hairstylist and she owns her own business. And so she gives Zora that wealth of knowledge and that safe space to be able to learn without judgment, and to have fun with it, and to be able to see magic, and not as this huge taller than me kind of thing, but as this thing that is a part of you, and that's just it. It's just something that you are, and you don't have to blow it out of proportion. And she's somebody who Zora is able to help her not be so much of an introvert, and to be give people a chance, and to all of that. And as a result, I ended up combining the two characters. I'm totally rambling, but that's a decision I made, because I realized that the chemistry between Zora and Whitley was far better than Zora and Artemisia. And I think that that's also something, as authors, another tip is you have to be willing to, what is the saying, kill your darlings. And if you are writing characters and you realize your villain ain't hidden, or your main character needs to be stronger, or your supporting characters aren't supporting, what are they there for? You have to be willing to do the work and be honest with yourself, to then make your book the best that it can be, and give yourself the time to do that.
Exactly. I 100% agree, and especially the part about giving yourself time to do it. And something that I would add to what Amanda was explaining is how part of the reason you kind of decided to combine your characters is because you needed that air of I can talk to you on your level. And I feel
Right.
like a piece that some authors miss, why some romance doesn't feel as compelling as others, is that you have these really strong main characters, and sometimes they're put with these really weak love interests. And I feel like a really big key to writing any type of romance is the two people that you're trying to put together really need to be on the same level. If you feel like you can't compellingly write an argument between them, then there is something fundamentally lacking but in that relationship, whether it be with your main character, whether it be with your love interest. And it could be any aspect, honestly. And it doesn't have to be like, oh, they hear it and they take the person's advice or anything like that. But if they literally cannot have an argument, they're in that type of relationship where if they get into an argument, they're just not going to talk to each other and that's the end of it. That's really not a compelling relationship, whether it be romantic, platonic, or whatever.
And
So, yeah.
that actually goes well with this question. What's a good way to showcase a disagreement in a romance without it being a trope?
Um,
I don't know. I mean, my instinct is just to really think about to be honest and think about what makes sense for your characters, right?
yeah.
Like you mentioned, Jane and Kate. If you have a character who is very honest, upfront, they're blunt, they with anybody else, they never back down from a fight. Uh, I would think that they would kind of carry that into their relationship to a certain extent.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if you have somebody who's very soft and they're very go with the flow and even keel, what is it about this particular argument that is making them change that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or um, maybe plot out their romance and plot out like what's happened in their relationship so far. So maybe what they're arguing about is a disagreement that they've had before.
Mm-hmm.
If this is an established romance, and maybe the reader doesn't need to know that, but that's why this is such a sticking point for this character, because you always do this.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
And I would also add to that, to not make it tropey, is to decide when they're going to have the argument and how the argument came about. Because
Right.
I personally don't like reading romance because I saw your question earlier about how we feel about having third act breakups.
Right.
And for me, I don't really like it because exactly this, because a majority of the time it's miscommunication. And for me, I just feel like I don't like the miscommunication trope, especially when it comes to adult romance. Like if it's a young adult romance, I don't mind it because when you're in that young adult range, somewhere between, like 14 and 16, 17, a lot of times you're very new to the relationship realm. And so you assume a lot of things because your hormones are raging and your brain isn't fully developed. And, you haven't lived a miscommunication and been like, I could have just talked to you. But when it comes to adult romance, I'm just kind of like, okay, baby doll, we have made it past college. Are you telling me that we still lack the fundamental idea that if I don't understand something or you did something that I don't like, that I should tell you about it? I don't, that mind boggles me and I don't like it. And that's why I say when it comes to disagreements in general, why are they having an argument? And is it something that's actually worth an argument? Because some things are just a discussion. And then some things are, and to me, a disagreement becomes I see things one way and you see things another way. And I'm trying to convince you to see things my way. There is no middle ground. And
Right.
if it's a discussion like that, that makes sense. But just because like a miscommunication or, oh, I saw you talking to someone else, but I have absolutely no context for what happened. That to me feels really dumb. Not gonna lie. It just feels really dumb. If it can be solved easily and it doesn't really even need a conversation more so than, oh, I'm sorry, or oh, it won't happen again, or oh, you know, this is what happened. You just got one side of it. If it's a very simple conversation, to me, that's not even a disagreement worth putting on the page. The only time it's really worth it is if
Right.
it's going to derail that relationship. So, one of the arguments that my main characters have, Jack and Brandy, they have a kind of big argument about her keeping secrets because, she is like the incarnation of the goddess and never told him. And he's just like, I've been walking around thinking you're just blessed and you're actually out here being the whole goddess and you didn't think to mention that to me. Like what other secrets you been keeping? That's kind
Right.
of a big thing. But
Yeah.
it just depends. I'm rambling. I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna rein myself in now. But
No,
that's what
you're good.
I feel.
I think it's also important to think about why, like you said, why does the argument take place? Is it, do you need it to move the plot forward? Is it to reveal some information? Is it to show the strength of this relationship? What is the point of this particular argument, disagreement, whatever that they're having? I
Hmm.
think it's also thinking about the characters and how a type of character would argue. Uh, because if you have somebody who doesn't know how to communicate properly, they're probably not going to, excuse me, have an argument with their partner and start it like, I feel sad because you kept secrets from me. That's probably not how the argument is going to go. So you have to really think about how authentically would this need to happen. And I think because, and then if you want to keep these characters together, think about logically how an argument would go if you do have a partner. Kind of
Hmm.
imagine this argument happening with that partner. Jack is upset. Obviously, she kept a secret, but it's a situation of him being upset because I love you. You know I love you more than anything, and I'm hurt. It's also coming from a hurt place of like I
Yeah,
am hurt that you felt you could not talk to me. It's not
exactly.
like I deserve this information. It's you felt you could not tell me this, and I am hurt because I thought we had a stronger relationship than that. And so
Exactly.
getting to that root and peeling back that layer can help to reestablish that relationship. And if that's the point of the argument, cool. But if it's just like, oh, well, we need to have this argument so that so and so can reveal this information that my main character needs to defeat the villain, it's like
Mm.
maybe that might not be the best course of action.
And also keep in mind of what arguments look like, because arguments don't always look like a face-to-face confrontation. Sometimes it's the little things. Sometimes, especially if you have a character who is non-confrontational, it's just kind of like they're not going to deal with it. There's just going to be very snide remarks like, I'm okay. I don't want to talk about it. Like, I don't want to hold your hand right now, and just distancing or
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is. Or even people who are like, it's okay. We don't need to talk about it. It's fine. It's in the past. It's behind us, whatever. And then if you have two non-confrontational people and one person is distant and one person's just like, let's pretend it never happened, that disagreement is going to look more played out and longer. And then some people are like, what's the word I'm looking for? They're verbal, right? So you have some people who have to talk their way into their feelings. They're not going to be able to come and just be like, I feel like this or I feel like that. Most people can't be like, what you did made me feel X way. Most people
Right.
aren't that emotionally intelligent, especially
Exactly.
when their emotions are high. So understanding how they would interact, because even like in this scenario with Jack and Brandy, he never outwardly says, oh, I'm hurt because you did X, Y, and Z. He's just like, why didn't you tell me? And the emotion is there from how he's acting and the things he's saying to her and his reaction to her words. But he's never like, oh, what you did hurt my feelings, or oh, I feel sad, or oh, I feel like that. That to me, when it comes to writing, unless your character is very self-aware like that, and that is part of their character trait, and it's not just with this one person but with everyone and with themselves throughout the story, it feels very just like convenient to all of a sudden be very self-aware of your feelings. And even with Brandy, she still has her personality of like, yes, I love you, but also raise your voice at me one more time and you're gonna see what's gonna happen. And they have
Exactly.
this relationship where it's just like everybody has boundaries and buttons. And especially if you're writing people who have been in a relationship and they know each other, it's just kind of like, even if you've never been in a romantic relationship, if you have friends, there are some lines that you just don't cross with them. And it's the same when it comes to writing a story. There are just some lines that you don't cross. So a very simple one from like a real life example, like when I was in college, um, Ben had some friends that we hung out with, and they were very like physical. So when they like would get into arguments, his friend's girlfriend would get physical and actually start hitting him. He didn't hit her back because reasons, but at the same time, it's like that was their relationship. Like he expected that whenever she got upset. But at the same time, there are certain lines that you don't cross. Yeah, I know. I see the look on your face. They didn't. They didn't last. Just so you know, they did end up
Right.
breaking up. But It's just like you know what to expect from someone when you're in a relationship with them, whether it be for good or bad. Even if it's like this person has a healthy trait of talking, or this person has a very toxic trait of getting violent.
Right.
Know what to expect from that person.
Yeah, and just before we address this, because I agree with this, Miss Women of Color Reader, this is a big
Mhm.
pet peeve of mine too. But to to your point, and kind of the opposite, when you then have two people that aren't fully together, or they're just newly together, they're not going to know those buttons. They're not going to know, okay,
Mhm.
when she says she's fine, she's really not fine. So that you also have to kind of make space for that of, okay, this is a growth moment for this relationship of them figuring out and decoding what
Mhm.
their new partner is thinking and feeling, and how they express their anger, and what do you mean when you say,
Yeah.
I'm okay, it didn't
Learning
bother
each
me.
other.
Learning each other, you know? But to this point, I get peeved when the characters stop to have sex right before the big battle. I do too, because one of the things that makes me think of is this character gonna die?
Like, honestly, red flags, but also for me, right? I'm probably too logical when it comes to certain stories, but I'm kind of like you, Reed Love. Listen, okay? Why are you putting your guard down? Okay, hold up, pause, homie, pause. So you're telling me that we finna get it in right now, and then we're gonna go out and swing swords around to fight demons or dragons or whatever it is? Nah, homie, you got this all types of twisted. We handle business
Mm-mm.
first. Work first, play later. Okay.
I like a good, like, sexually charged kiss, though. I like a good, you know what I mean? And you can expect, in my book, characters will there will be moments where there's like a sexually charged handing you something and the hands brush, and you're just like, oof, oof, and like, how do they look in that dress, and kiss, but nothing else happens right before the big battle, because it does make sense. And I always end up, when I'm reading or watching TV and people are about to go into a battle, and somebody goes to do something and the other character is like, wait, I have to tell you something. I yell every time. I'm like, you don't have time for this. You do not have time to break down a dissertation as to why you think you and Yolanda should be together when you are about to fight zombies, sir, madam, whomever. Get your shit together. Talk to them later.
Talk to them
And don't be
later.
like, I don't know, we don't know if we're going to survive this. You don't have confidence in yourself, and I
And
don't care about you.
honestly, if we don't survive, does it matter that you confessed?
Because now
Probably
I'm
not.
going to be heartbroken thinking about what could have been, both emotionally and sexually, in this relationship, and then you went ahead and died. You could have just kept that to yourself.
Could have just kept it to yourself. And the reason I don't like it is just because, and this probably goes back to when I was in high school, but I remember football players literally being like, if they had a girlfriend, they weren't allowed to do anything with them the night before a game because it literally made their muscles soft. And they were just like, nah, not gonna do that. And I'm like, if they take it that seriously for a football game, bruh, we about to go into a life or death battle. I'm gonna need you to like calm it down.
Right. Right.
So that's just my 2 cents. Just so y'all know, there's nothing like that. I mean, like I've been through this. I don't write sex scenes, so y'all don't even have to worry about that with me. But there, I will say this: I don't write sex scenes, but my characters are grown and they mind their business. So it's just kind of like they get it in when they can. Okay, they're assassins. They're used to this living on the road, right? But then I'm just kind of like, it ain't right before we about to go fight. Like, that's dumb. It's dumb. I'm sorry. It's dumb.
I think it's also another thing we can address is when to use certain tropes and when not to, right? So one of the things that is kind of common in a romance, uh, in romance media, is that whole it's obvious to everybody else except for the main character that this person has feelings for them, and maybe at the 11th hour the main character discovers it, realizes it, whatever, right? um or the person recounts their feelings. I don't necessarily always like that because it doesn't always fit the character. It's kind of like you're telling me you have a, to paint an example, you have a woman as confident as like Megan the Stallion, let's just say,
Mhm.
okay? You're telling me that Megan the Stallion would not have an idea that, I don't know, who's a hot guy, Yahya Abdul-Mateen II would not crush on her, and everybody else around her knows that he's flirting and crushing, and she's that out of it that she wouldn't have an idea. You're telling me that? I don't I don't think that I don't think. Sorry,
I
that's
just
just my opinion.
no, I 100% agree with you. I personally, I don't care for it when it doesn't fit the character, and I don't like it when the character's like, "Oh my god, they could never like me." I'm just kind of like in my mind, I'm like, "Bitch, shut the fuck up!" Like, what? This is not you. You're not making any sense. And then I
Yeah.
also am not a fan of these people not having nosy friends because I'm like, how do you have literally 4 friends who all see this and none of them tell you to your face like, "Oh, you know so and so likes you, right?" Like, no one is going to watch this slow burn in real time for 3 books. Literally, no one cares.
Right.
You need to hook up right now.
Because somebody would have dropped some hints ahead of time and been like some kind of side comment about, "Oh, you hanging out with your new boyfriend?" And you know
Honestly,
what I mean?
one of the things that I always think about, and it's such a random
Mhm.
thing, but I don't know if you guys ever watch Boy Meets World, but
Hell yeah.
there's a point where Sean and Topega's friend, they literally get sick of them like skirting around each other. So they're like, we're just gonna deal with it. And so Sean asks Topanga out on a date. He's like, well, you're not gonna ask her. She's hot. I'm gonna ask her. And Corey is like, yo, bro, what are you doing? And then they get into their whole argument. And then Corey and Topanga finally get together for the first time. And I'm just kind of like, y'all ain't got no friends, none, who are gonna be like, okay, well, fine. You don't like them? Cool. That means he's free game, right? So I'm gonna shoot my shot, or even just
Yeah.
like, you know what? I'm gonna set you up on a date, Lady in the Tramp. These people, okay, put them together at the same time, okay? They have no friends who love or care about them. They're dumb as a bag of rocks, and I'm just kind of like, I'm not here for it. I don't like it. Unless that is your character. Like if your character is intentionally written to be naive or to be young and inexperienced, that is one thing. So it's just kind of like if your character has never experienced someone liking them before and they don't know the signs of someone liking them, or if they've been in a toxic relationship where the signs of liking them has been always like a negative thing, like say for instance, a, like how girls are supposed to be used to like boys pulling their hair or
Right.
whatever. And so they take that as, oh, he likes me, or like shoving them or like teasing them, or they're not used to people saying nice things about them like, oh, you're pretty, or oh, I like your outfit, or anything like that. And so they're just like, oh, he's just being nice to me because Robbie's being nice to me because Freddie over here is being mean to me. And so she's not going
Mhm.
to pick up that Robbie actually likes her because she thinks Freddie likes her because he's being mean. And it's like, no, Freddie's just an asshole, you know? So if
Right.
that's how you're writing your character, that's also a different type of scenario. But the whole,
Right.
oh, yes, I'm a high school girl and I'm totally normal and I have friends, but I'm an outcast because I like to be different. But also, I have never had a real relationship because I'm weird, because I like to be weird. And my parents aren't always around and I have all this free time at home. But look, there's this emo kid who always hangs out and he's always nice to me. But I don't think he likes me. We're just friends. We're just friends, even though he buys me lunch and he's offered to take me to prom, and we go out to eat and we hang out all the time. He's always over at my house and he's always telling me
Right.
nice things about myself. We're just friends. We're just friends. Even though he never talks to any other girls and he tells me other girls aren't as pretty as me, we're just friends. We're just friends.
Right. I definitely think it's so I don't like bully love interest. I agree.
Oh yeah,
I
no.
think the lesson here is the trope. If you are going to use a trope, the tropes should match your character's personality and try to subvert them. I realized, as I had mentioned, Zor's former love interest. I realized also as writing her very much like a manic pixie dream girl, and I don't want to do that. And if you aren't familiar, that's just basically like it's kind of the cool girl, only she's a little more bohemian. But it's basically a girl who, the love interest is down in their luck, they're questioning themselves, they're going through some kind of existential crisis. Usually the manic pixie dream girl shows up in a story about a straight white man.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh. Um, could be used in other situations, but it's basically she is the tool that is used to push this person out of their shell, and she's the one who gives them confidence in themselves, or helps them realize what they want to do in their future, or gives them the magic or resources they need to complete their mission. And usually they are people who are very hollow. They have hollow characterization. We don't know much about them. We don't even really know their needs and wants and desires. And often they end up either dying or leaving the story after the character has achieved what they're trying to achieve. And that obviously does a disservice to women. It does a disservice to these situations, because you need to have all your characters be fully fleshed out and fully make sense and
Mm-hmm.
have their own wants and needs and desires, especially somebody as important as a love interest. And so, another situation of having to be real with yourself, I realized I was falling into a trap that I have vehemently spoken about, a trope I don't like. And so that's another reason why I had to combine these characters. Every movie, TV show I made of 100s of tropes, but sometimes people get too caught up trying to make a specific one work, like enemies to lovers. I
Mm-hmm.
recently read a book where the MC was a virgin, and it went explicitly about her breaking, and all of a sudden she's an expert. It was so weird. What makes a good love scene for y'all? Oof.
Not
Okay,
that.
so not
Not
that.
that. What?
So
What?
this is
I'm
probably
sorry.
going to be our last question about this love scene, but these are definitely agree. Bully love is abusive and toxic. I really
Yeah.
am not here for the whole toxic, manipulative, Beauty and the Beast type love. Uh, it's abusive. It's not cool.
And
The
it was a
only
vampire romance?
Oh
Ah.
god, the only good aspects of Beauty and the Beast are the library and Lumiere. Fight me, because
I mean, honestly,
you know what I
he was
mean.
him and that candelabra. They was
The
they was
candelabra and the clock were
yeah,
it. That was the romance we needed, okay? Because they were given some major like
yeah.
energy there. Anyway, um, in terms of what makes a good love scene, obviously if it's not, I for me it's if it's not forced, right?
Hmm.
If the story doesn't call for a love scene, why are we including it? If it's not right before battle, right? We you don't have time for this. I
Hmm.
think if it goes in a way that makes sense for the characters. So if you have a woman who's, or not even a woman, if you have a character who's inexperienced in the bedroom, maybe they're not going to end up being some sex kitten in bed. Maybe they're going to just end up being a little more cautious, a little more like, is that right? It's maybe fumbling a little bit more. Or the opposite could be true, where maybe they watched porn or read smut and then came thinking that they knew what to do. And then their love interest is like, hold on. Let's get it together. I think all of this comes down to what makes sense for your characters, and they shouldn't suddenly flip the script when they're put in a situation where they're arguing with their love interest, or where they're about to have sex with them, or even when they're about to go into battle, unless you've charted that trajectory.
Hmm.
Uh, I don't mind fade to black, that's fine. And it's also really awkward when you try to write a sex scene and maybe use weird nicknames for things, for body parts,
I mean, yeah, but
or like childish nicknames, like
like a
Tata
hoo
and
ha.
her chi-chis for hoo-ha. I don't mind saying the kitty, because that's kind of like a little cute in a good way, but it's like be.
I
What about you? I feel like I just made this awkward.
don't know, because it's like, I, I'm like I said, I don't write sex scenes because that's not my bag, and I know that about myself. But if we're talking about like reading it or even just incorporating one, even if it's not an explicit love scene, my biggest thing is comfort. Like I should not feel awkward reading a scene, or like cringe, or like, ooh, can we just get to the end of this, because this makes me uncomfortable. Like, I never want to feel like that, especially if it is supposed to be a love scene, whether it be like just romantic or like a physical, we about to get it in type love scene. I don't, it
Mm,
needs to be comfortable, and it needs to be like genuine, because it's just kind of like, if you are writing an explicit love scene, it's just like, especially an extended one, it's just kind of like, people take breaks. There are jokes, there's talking involved that's not necessarily dirty talk, and it's just kind of like you said, sometimes if you're new to being in the bedroom, or new to that person, even there's like fumbling, and like, oh, okay, how's this or how's that, and like finding a sense of confidence. But if it's just kind of like, how do I put it? If it's too perfect, it also puts me off, because it's just like, oh, of course she's just got, like, one of the things that puts me off the most, and it's such a small thing, bitches who have unexpected sex scenes and they got matching underwear. Baby doll, you know good and well you did not put on no red and black lacy matching underwear to walk your ass to the Food Lion. To walk. I'm not saying, I'm not saying you're getting an Uber. I'm not saying you're driving. You did not put that on to put on sweatpants and a sweatshirt to walk to the Food Lion to go get you a soda and some beer. Okay? That is not what happened. Okay?
right.
Don't lie to me. Don't lie to me like that.
Yeah. I'm gonna bring up, this movie is problematic for a lot of reasons, but I think that they did a pretty good job of this, is Bridget Jones's Diary, the moment where she goes to her like work thing, and she's been flirting with her boss, and she's trying to figure out which underwear, either the thong or the shapewear.
Mm.
And because of course we've been sold this lie that Bridget Jones is fat, she goes with the shapewear, even though homegirl was like a size 6. Okay, no.
All right.
But they made like, that's a separate conversation. They made a whole big deal. Everybody in the movie calls her fat, but she's really just like a size 6, 8. She's not. She's
I
less
want to
than the
be that
average
kind of
size.
fat. That's all I'm gonna say.
Right. And so she's wearing the shapewear, and she's with this guy, and she kind of forgets, and she's like in the moment and kissing him, and then he pulls her dress up, and he's like, "What the fuck are these? These are huge. Fuck me." And she's just like, "Oh my god. Oh fuck." And she's trying to push her dress down, and he's like, "No, no, no. I like these. Ooh. Ooh." And it's just this moment of like, to me it felt real, of like, oh shit, I put on the shapewear, I totally forgot I'm in this moment, here's this hot guy and he's gonna judge me. But then ultimately he's like, no, I like them, they're sexy. And having those moments of unexpected, you don't know what's gonna turn somebody on the first time, when
It's
you
not
when you
even
do
that. I
that.
also feel like there's this. How do I put this without being shameless? I'm just gonna say that if you're really into it, that person, or even getting it in, there are obstacles that will be removed. It doesn't really matter what the obstacle look like, does it? That's all that I'm
Hmm.
gonna say. Whether it's
Right.
shapewear, whether it's bloomers, whether it's a corset, baby, they've been taking it off for decades, generations, thousands of years. Men have been removing obstacles. Women have been removing obstacles. People have been peopling. Okay, like,
Hmm.
it doesn't really matter. And I like it when, like you said, matching underwear is for planned sex. If it's planned, okay, yes, get the matching set. If it's not, I would just like somebody to have on a nude bra and their regular panties. Like, it's not lacy. It's literally came out the 6 pack of Hanes. Okay.
Hmm.
I would just love to see it personally. But then again, I don't read that much romance, like spicy romance, as they like to say on TikTok at this point in my life, because I don't read as much as I would like to. Working on that. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I think kind of the biggest takeaway from this is having these moments match your character's personality. You
Yeah.
know, um, if you have somebody who is super duper confident across the board, and then they get in the bedroom and suddenly their confidence dries up, we need to know why, or else it doesn't feel authentic to the character that they would be so confident in everything else. Um, I read spicy romance and it's always lace. I also, one thing I like about love scenes is when there's a little bit of humor in there. Not like a ha ha ha, I'm making fun of like your body. But sex is awkward, okay? It doesn't matter who you're fucking. Have sex is an awkward thing that humans do that brings pleasure, but it's awkward. And I really like it when you have a moment of like, maybe somebody gets tangled in their shirt, or like somebody's wearing nylons and you can't take it off and there's a thing, or like
I love it
you
when
get hit by a belt or something awkward. It's funny.
I love it when they're like, when the girl has on a dress and the guy literally cannot figure out how to take it off. She's like, you know what? I got this. It was just like, sorry, I was trying to be sexy and like unzip you without looking. She's like, no, it's okay. And then she's just like, oh, coat hanger. And it's just like, huh. All
Or
right.
when
There we
somebody's
go.
trying to undo the bra, when the guy's like trying to, and then she just goes, cool, and it just like comes undone. I
Yep.
think they add moments of realness because that's what real life is. Even in like a fantasy thing, uh, sex can be awkward. Relationships and romance can be awkward, and so extending those awkward moments into romance moments is also good too. Like especially if these two characters, most exclusively, I would say, if these two characters are just getting together, because having awkward, how do you like your coffee is weird if they've been
Mm.
established, because by then you know how they like their coffee. But if it's somebody new, it's like, hey, I brought you this lot. Do you like a latte? It's like a
I love how
caramel.
you combined latte and juice. He said lot juice.
Did I? Oh shit.
Yes. I was just like, oh wow, coffee and juice.
For a writer, the way that I sure to be messing up words all the time. I was trying to order a burger the other day and forgot what mustard was. I was trying to say mustard and couldn't make the connection, was not connectioning. So
Yeah.
all that to say. Yes, this is so I we hope you found these tips helpful.
Yes.
And just know that, I guess, our big takeaways are: make sure that these moments and the things that are happening are authentic
Mhm.
to your character, to your character's arc, I will say, because we don't want flat characters, so make it authentic to their arc. Infuse humor in these moments and maybe awkwardness, because where it makes sense, because that adds a little bit of realness. If you don't feel giddy when you're writing these scenes, if you don't feel that connection between the characters, be it romantic or platonic love, you might want to revise, combine, eliminate, go back to the drawing board, and also have fun. Have
Mm.
fun. That's a big tip. Have fun with whatever it is you are writing. So we're going
Yes.
to wrap this up. So, Chelsea, where do you want to be found? All of your links are in the description, but if there's anything specific you want to call out, let the people know.
So currently in this day and age, I'm spending most of my time on Twitter and TikTok, and you can find me there at C Lockhart Write, WRITE. And that's pretty much it. I'm not spending a whole lot of time on the internet right now because I'm trying to focus on rewrites. So, if you really want to catch me, you should find me in my Discord server. So, if you're a Black writer and want to join, just hit me up and I will send you a link. And that's pretty much it. I just bother Amanda and write pretty much all the time. That's my life right now. So, yeah.
Oh, boy, do I relate. Okay, so you can find me, Amanda the author, same way it is here on Instagram and TikTok, and then on Twitter just with one E, because, character count. I
Yep.
have been steeped in rewrites for myself as well. Please, you all send me some good thoughts and vibes and whatever, because these are due on June 2nd, and what, 10, 12 days for me? I am stressed. I am tired. You heard me trying to say words today. Sometimes they didn't always come out effectively. This is what my tired brain is. So just send me good vibes, y'all, and I would appreciate it. follow me, hang out with me. I'm trying to do more with this channel, but these rewrites got me. But I will be here for you. And again, look out for us because we will be talking about writing good villains, probably magic systems, probably pantheons of gods because Chelsea has them so good in her book, and a whole lot more. So without further ado, with all of that, we're going to say goodbye and hope y'all have a great weekend. We'll catch y'all later.
Bye.
Bye.